another amazing episode of ITCAF Podcast. Because we have the one and only Charlotte Kirk coming on the show to talk about her latest film, Duchess. And man, oh man, she is not only an actress, she is a writer and producer as well. Man, it is very inspiring to hear from somebody like herself who came over from London to make her way into the entertainment industry in the United States. She did an amazing thing, man.
Oh my gosh, yeah. She made the jump from across the pond to the Big Apple, and then from the Big Apple to Hollywood. Talk about whoop, whoop, whoop. I mean, that's a whole lot of going on. But she did it so well and successfully, and because she knew what she wanted, and she went after it, and she's a content creator, right? Because it's not always easy sometimes. And she talks about, like, sometimes you got to create your own stuff, and you got to write your own stuff. And, man, really, really good interview for all the up-and-comers. You guys are going to definitely want to check this one out because she gives some solid advice on how to do it and what not to do. So can't wait for everybody to hear that.
That's right, but that is later on the show. Now, let's get a little crazy.
Hello, everyone. So you want to start a podcast but have no idea where to start? Well, Crazy Ant Media is here to help you. We want to assist you finding your VFE. What's VFE, you ask? Well, that is your voice, your format, and your equipment. These are the three biggest essentials you need to start your podcast. All those hours watching non-stop YouTube videos or all those random website links, those are done. Just hop on a Zoom call with us and we'll talk about everything you need to know to create your own podcast and find your voice. Plus, we will send you home with a 12-page packet over everything we just discussed. It's very in-depth. It is definitely a must-need while trying to start your first podcast. Contact us at info@crazyantmedia.com today so that you can start finding your podcast voice for tomorrow.
What's up, guys? Oh my goodness, episode 270 of ITCAF Podcast. Oh, you guys know your host with the most, myself, J-Lo Fantastic, and the one and only Mo.
What's up?
Man, oh man, who's ready for some football to be back on today? That's for sure. Oh my goodness. I know my Notre Dame Fighting Irish plays at 6:30 Central Time today. So man, oh man, we are playing Texas A&M. Does Michigan play today?
Yes, they do, sir, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 your time, against Fresno State.
Yeah, you should be fine.
Yeah, no. But I am curious to see is Sherrod Moore's first game as head coach and how it's going to go. And you know, the
new quarterback in there.
Yeah, there's no McCarthy. There's no Blake Corum. What are we going to look like? Well, one thing is for certain. We will have the most dominant offensive line and the most dominant defensive line because that is just always true in Michigan football, and we're going to see how it goes, man. I'm excited, though. I'm excited.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. But we're super excited today to talk about everything that was going down in Hollywood. A little bit slower week. Everybody getting ready for a Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
But before we get into everything that did happen in Hollywood, be sure to leave a rating on this podcast, comment below, and tell us what you actually think about the show, because leaving a rating on this podcast actually helps more people find this podcast, especially those who enjoy entertainment news, but we really are targeting those who are breaking into the entertainment industry.
Facts.
Us here at Crazy Ant Media are all about lending the helping hand, and we try to do so in every which way possible. But man, oh man, we got a lot to talk about this week. I mean, a little bit of Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine. That's been basically like our whole summer, I feel like. But I mean,
Disney,
it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. But the Superman trailer came out this week about Christopher Reeve. We're going to be talking about that. Taylor Sheridan saying Yellowstone might come back for season 5, and a One Tree Hill series at Netflix. So a lot to deep dive into. We're super excited about it. But before we get all that started, be sure to head over to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. Now, we do have a sale, 20% off, so be sure to check out all of that stuff at crazyantmedia.com.
Yes.
But oh my goodness. First things first, Inside Out 2, one of the biggest movies of the summer. It finally surpassed $1 billion at the international box office, one of 12 releases, and the only animated film to ever crossed that huge milestone. I mean, this only makes sense. They're talking about having more projects and more films in development, but we do know for a fact that we're going to get a television show out
Yes.
of the Inside Out concept. But I mean, it would be interesting though, right? Because they would be kind of taking the Marvel effect if they did do a television show and then a film as well. But I think if they did do that, they would have to do it kind of in the same vein as Marvel to where the television show gives you a little bit more detail, but it doesn't give you the necessary detail that the films do,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And for anybody that's a little confused out there about what, because we've been telling you that it crossed $1 billion or whatever. So this is international box office.
Yes.
That means just foreign, right? So you have domestic, you have global, you have international. Well, international is just foreign. Domestic is just here in Canada. Global, worldwide, is everything. It's domestic and international. So it finally crossed $1 billion internationally. So just to clear that up, because like everybody's like, what the fuck? I thought it already crossed $1 billion. And no, so I totally agree with you about how there's an opportunity here, and I'm wondering if this is a testing ground almost about will Pixar start to develop a universe like Marvel and Star Wars has, where it's television and movies, and they cross over and combine. I'm wondering if this is just the first attempt to see if it would work with animated properties going like that. And so I'm excited for it, though. I mean, everybody seems to love this, and I think it's a really interesting way, and I think why it's worked so well is because it's a really unique way to deal with a very touchy subject, mental health, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this discusses everything about mental health, the depression, anxiety, and fear, and like all these things that she's going through. But it does it in a way that's fun. It's entertaining. Kids can talk about it. And I think that's why it's been hugely successful. I'm excited for the series. I have no doubt we're going to report at some point again. It's going to make another box office milestone somewhere. I mean, it's just rocking and rolling. So I'm excited for it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, to take the same vein as kind of like what Toy Story did with departing from Andy and going
Right.
to a new like main host type person, they've kind of been teasing that a little bit with Inside Out too, with being inside the mom, the dad, or
Yeah.
different children's heads, like all of their different emotions as well. So I mean, you could go in so many different ways and have, instead of joy being the main focal point and being the most focal emotion, there could be a different focal emotion, because they kind of hinted at too in both of these installments that there's different leader emotions
Exactly.
for each person. So that would be very interesting to say, like a transgender boys, or like an athlete, or all of these different things. Well, I know the main character in the originals was an athlete, but still, like, I mean, there's so many different scenarios in life, because life is crazy, that you can grasp with these type of emotions. So I think it would be very interesting to explore that. But like Bob Iger said recently, he's trying not to push a narrative, really.
Exactly.
He's trying to just tell entertaining films. So it'll be interesting to see how they can balance that with something like this.
Yeah.
So that would be I'm very curious to see how that all play out, or whoever takes the reins next, whoever's gonna make that
Dana Walden. All right, guys. This I think I'm not surprised by this, but some people might be. Deadpool and Wolverine. It dropped out of first place last week. Well, it's back in first place. It's gonna win the box office this weekend. And that's because the two new movies that came out did not do very well. They're not going to perform well at all. And so everybody just flocked back to Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not shocked by that at all. I think this one's got legs. I think it's just going to continue to keep running for the rest of the summer, and close out summer. Honestly, there's not really... I think we got Beetlejuice coming, and then other than that, really, there's nothing until fall, right? Until we start getting into the holiday season. So I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine's probably got a couple more weeks in it. I do think Beetlejuice will knock it, but still. It also has surpassed Minions now with $1.159 billion worldwide at the box office. Just explain what that meant. And now it's the 27th highest grossing film of all time, which, when you think about it, R-rated movies don't typically end up in the highest grossing films of all time because not a lot of audiences can see them. It's not like it's where it's a PG-13 and you can flood it out with kids or, all the different audiences. It's got a very specific audience. But it's just rocking and rolling, man. And I don't see this thing slowing down, like I said, until possibly the end of the summer, and which is a few more weeks. And I just obviously I could not be more happy. I fucking love this film, and I'm thrilled that it's making all this money. I don't know what else to say, man.
Oh, I'm surprised you haven't seen it multiple times in theaters. I mean, with it being like the big reveal, I'm surprised you haven't seen it more than once in theaters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've seen it twice in theaters, and I was even thinking about going to go see it again.
I do want to go see it again
in theaters, just because I mean, there was newer things out that are interesting that do grab my attention. But even like, for example, last night I went and saw Alien Romulus, and it wasn't like I said when we were talking off air, the beginning, it's a slow pacing, and I had never seen any other aliens before, so I wasn't as heavily invested as I would have been in different things.
Right.
So, and then I was like literally in the movie theater thinking, man, maybe I should have just went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine again. Like, obviously I did enjoy my choice. I did enjoy the film Alien. But still, I mean, it's Deadpool and Wolverine is one of those films where you can keep going to go see it, and like it's such a great experience. And yeah, I mean the possibilities are endless with that one. So I'm very excited to see what it closes out with for the entire run. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
And if they will spin off into a series, because there's a lot of rumors about that too. I know that they tried a little while back to do a Deadpool animated series. It wasn't Marvel, I mean, or MCU. It wasn't Disney and if affiliated, but I know there were rumors of that. But there's a lot of talk about potentially a Wolverine series on Disney Plus, which I think would be huge. I think that a lot of people would flock to that series, and it would do huge numbers for them. Me personally, I think the Frank Miller miniseries where he's in the brown suit, which people are fucking loving after seeing it in the film, I think that that's a really good storyline to present in a television format. So, and of course, all the other things coming out of here. Will we see Gambit again? We know Ryan Reynolds is fighting hard to get Gambit kept in the MCU and to have his own movie. So will that play out? It certainly sets up a lot with Loki. It certainly sets up a lot with Fantastic Four and all the stuff moving forward. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's one of those where you can continue to keep going and seeing it, because every time you see it, you recognize something new. You missed that the first time, or didn't see that. And so anytime a movie can do that to get you to continuously keep coming back, and you're always surprised with something that you see, that's how you have long legs at the box office. And and this one definitely does that. So yeah. I'm betting.
I think if they do a Wolverine series, it should just be a mini series and a one-off. Like, I don't.
Oh, without doubt.
Past that.
Yeah, no.
You don't want it to be oversaturated or feel like a cash grab. So
yeah,
I mean, you want it to be organic and authentic.
That's
like the whole thing with freaking Wolverine and the Hulk, like
yes,
it's just,
yeah. That's why I totally said
oversaturated. Yeah.
No, that's why I totally said the Frank Miller miniseries, because it's a very concise, consolidated story that took place over like 6 issues, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So they could do it. They could do 6 to 8 episodes and very tidily consolidate that thing into a really good series. But I'm with you. I don't want him oversaturated, because then you take away I think the reason that Wolverine works so well is because we have seen him so spread out over the years.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't been just tossed all the time with him. And so, yeah, I don't want to ruin that. I want to keep the love and the flair for him. So, Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, I mean, sticking with Marvel, there have been some on-set photos leaked this past week, and I've seen a little bit of both. I've seen, them understanding that it's going to be a mix of CGI and live action, and then I've seen people bash it like hardcore. We're talking about The Thing for Fantastic Four, an on-set photo, and you can tell it was from overhead, and it looks like they're pulling down his face. But I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Some people have a problem with the suit. Like, I don't have a problem with the suit because of the time period. But yeah, I just feel like, again, like what we've been talking about these past couple weeks with Marvel, with Star Wars, like there's so many people out there that just hate to hate, man. They don't want to give it a reason to like it. So it's very difficult to try to figure out. And I'm gonna pull up Twitter to see if I can find some funny tweets about it. So
Well,
go
and
ahead and give your thoughts and
so
opinions.
so I just want to lay out fact for all the haters, okay? First of all, this was a screen grab from a video. It wasn't even like an actual photo, okay? So any of the photos that you saw, it was a screen grab from a video. And they also have the video leaked, so where you can see it. One, Eben has been everywhere saying that he doesn't even know what the costume looks like yet because all he's been in is the ping pong ball motion capture. It was clear from the very beginning, both Eben and Kevin Feige said that the thing would be CGI. And then it was kind of revealed a little bit more that it would be a little bit of a mix, okay? Second, what this is, that wasn't even Eben on set. What this is if you go back and you look at the old MCU stuff or any old movies that use green screen and CGI characters, remember back in the day, like in the early Avengers movies, they had somebody on set with a big stick and a giant Hulk head, and they were holding it up, and the actors were acting towards that big Hulk head on a stick as if that was Hulk, right? And then they digitally removed that, and they put the CGI Hulk in. Well, what they've been doing recently is using actors on set in costumes to have the actors act with, and then removing them and replacing them with the CGI. This is what that is. That is an actor in a Thing costume representing what the actors are acting with. And then that is going to be removed, and the CGI thing that Eben is doing is going to replace that. That's all it is. Everybody's freaking out about it, saying, oh my God, they're going to do makeup and it looks like shit, blah, blah, blah. That's not what it is. It's a fill-in for what will be replaced by the actual on-screen version of the Thing that we're going to see. So calm the fuck down. It's no big deal. It's read. If you just read, or better yet, listen to our show, because we've talked about how Thing was going to be generated numerous times when we first started reporting on it, you would realize that what this picture isn't what the internet is attacking it as. That's all I want to say about that. And plus, kudos to the makeup people, because, and I posted, if you go onto my Twitter, that is probably the most comic book accurate look of the Thing that we've seen on screen yet. It looks like what he looks like in the comic book. So just, yeah, I don't like all the hate. Just educate yourselves before you just start throwing out hate about something that isn't even what you're saying it is. It just, that bothers me. That gets me, like, just enjoy the process, man. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know what filmmakers do to make things look the way they look. So unless you're on a set, unless you're a filmmaker, unless you know the process, chill the fuck out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing, because people just love to hate. And I mean, so many people are looking at it as, between the Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and now this one, and they're comparing the two. And I mean, there's not a lot different. And you said yourself that version of the Thing in those films, like, that was pretty accurate.
It was.
So it's very interesting. It looks like it's Fantastic Four for sure. Marvel Studios is going to cheap VFX route, just like Fox did. Again, with people hating on it for so many different reasons because they they haven't seen the finished project yet or the finished product yet. So it's just it's very interesting to see how it all continues to play out. But people aren't going to be happy until they see the finished product. So
Well, and
it's one of those things where you just roll your eyes.
My question is, like, because of what you just said with reading that tweet, oh, Marvel's going to go the cheap route like 20th Century Fox and do makeup and visual effects. Like, why would they do that? The entire time the MCU has been in existence, they've done it with CGI. Why would they all of a sudden go, well, this movie, we're going to make it with makeup? No, they're not. No, they wouldn't even, and especially after they were hammered about, under the Chapek era, about rushing the CGI and making it so not look up to the standards that we expect. You know they're going to fucking make thing look badass, because they do not want the CGI to look at evidence of that is look at how badass Red Hulk looked like. Now, when it first leaked, it wasn't finished CGI yet. But now in that 85th anniversary of Marvel video, where it's finished and he's coming up and it's full HD and color corrected and it looks fucking badass. I mean,
it does.
You have to remember, guys, Feige is working with Iger again. Iger is back. It's the quality over quantity. Remember that. And so trust the fact that the thing is going to look incredible. Just trust in it. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And yeah, I'm with you. Why are people hating on the costumes? Light blue, that's what the original costumes were. I mean, I like the light blue and white costumes. And sure, is it a little variation? Does it look more like an astronaut-y type? So what? They're astronauts. This is, you get complaints when they say they don't ground it enough in the real world. It's too over the top, blah, blah, blah. And then when they try to ground it a little bit in the real world, like this is kind of more accurate of what their uniform would look like, then they get pissed. It doesn't look like the comic book. It's like, what the... Just be a fan. Just enjoy I don't know. Anyway, let's jump over to Warner Brothers. Speaking of being a fan, fuck. I cannot wait until September 21st. The first official poster you guys saw dropped, and then the trailer for Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't make it through the trailer without bawling my eyes out. The trailer literally brought me to tears. When he says that he's... Because, and I say this only because everybody says he's the definitive Superman, right? He's the one that everybody holds up to. That is what you have to match every time you play a superhero. So to hear him say, I'm not that character. I'm not Superman. I'm just an actor playing a role. It really puts into perspective how fucking awesome an actor this man was. Because he approached it simply as, I'm an actor playing a role, but to the world, he is Superman. And it's just... And then when he talks about how... Because, and if I'm not mistaken, this might be the first time that at least I have ever heard him say publicly that he wished he had died. Or that he wanted to die. Because everywhere you always see, it's all about the Christopher Reeve Foundation, and he was working hard to help cure paralysis, and he was going to walk again, and he was going to inspire and do all these things. But in this trailer, you hear him for the first time say, I can't throw the ball with my son. I can't sail. I can't make love to my wife. I've failed everybody. Maybe I should just die. And I was like, fuck. That really just like, because... Here's this guy that embodies hero, that embodies Superman and strength and inspiration and all. And you hear him say he wished he was dead, that he let people down, and that it's so powerful. And to see how he overcomes it, because the trailer is going to dive deep, clearly, into the family, helping him when he says, and then my wife said this to me and it saved my life. And to dive into that, and we're going to go deep into the relationship with him and Robin Williams, who even more so now that we know Robin was suffering the whole time with his own mental health problems and all the stuff that he was going through, but he never left Christopher's side and paid for all of the medical stuff when Christopher ran out of money and did all these things for his best friend while he was suffering, and they're going to go into that. And I cannot say enough about this film. I'm so glad that the filmmakers behind this decided to do it. I'm so glad that Warner Brothers and DC Studios greenlit it, because I am that guy. I am that 8-year-old boy that believed a man could fly. I talk about this all the time. It's what inspired me to be a filmmaker. It's what inspired me to make magic and be a person that inspires others. And then to see this and go, the taglines now, it's like the man you thought you knew kind of, but the story you didn't know, and that he's a hero. So, I have so many emotions for this thing, and I just simply cannot wait to see it. And I'm glad that they're doing it in theaters, because I feel like it deserves that.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm very excited to learn more about the Foundation, and it looks like it's going to be heavily involved in that rather than, how he was a character, an actor playing a character. So
Right.
I think that's going to be very interesting, and to show, his humanity and what he was trying to do for the next generations moving forward. And I'm sure it was very difficult, too, because it seems like he's always been that person to where he's like, I'm Christopher. I'm not Superman. I'm not Clark Kent. I'm sure that was very difficult, because even in this particular project, he is Superman. So I'm sure, once he had the accident and once he couldn't move, because so many people refer to him as this god, to where now he feels like he's nothing. So I'm sure that was very difficult. And yeah, I mean, to dive deeper into the mental health stuff with surrounding all of that is going to be absolutely fascinating. And yeah, I'm pumped. It looks very exciting. I made sure to look up the times and days that it was playing where I'm at. So I'm very excited. For sure going to be the first ever documentary I've seen in theaters. And I think it's going to be good. And I think the people that are going to be in the theaters are going to be diehard Superman, diehard Christopher Reeve fans. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a very interesting experience, because I've never had anything like that before. So I'm excited. It's going to be very, very cool.
So, everybody knows, we're father and son-in-law, and I mean, I've shared my story with the importance of this film over the years with you and everything. I'm really excited because I feel like this documentary is you're going to get a peek into why it was so important to me, why this film meant so much to me, and this man meant so much to me, and what he was and what he represented. And I think you're going to get a peek into that world and have a much better grasp and understanding of it. And I'm hoping that I do see a lot of people your age there, because I know I'm going to see everybody my age there, because it is what it is. But I want to see the younger generations come and understand the process of this story and how it played out. And you brought up a really good point. And he says it again, like we both said in this documentary. He talks about how he's just an actor and just a man playing a role. But he understood the importance of what that role was. He understood what Superman meant to the world, which is why he also says it was important for him to get it right. He understood that this is what Superman meant to little children, what Superman meant to the world as far as being somebody that could inspire and the world could look to for peace and hope. And so to understand that he's just a man playing a role, but then also understand the importance of making sure the role was what it was supposed to be, says everything about him, honestly. It's
a lot of pressure.
It is.
A lot of pressure.
It is. And then to have the added pressure, because like I said, now it's just, it is what it is. He's the granddaddy. And every superhero movie, that's the one you're trying to hit. That's the level. That's the guy. And I mean, Feige says it before every Marvel movie is made. The entire cast and crew watch Superman. And so that is the pressure there is just I don't even know. It had to have been just incredible. And yeah, I just, and for anybody who doesn't know, you know, Dana died also. His wife died also. So those kids just have to go through everything that they went through with dad and then lose mom. It just, fuck, man. It's one of those things, and I'm sure they're going to dive into that as well. But thank you, James Gunn. Thank you, Warner Brothers. This might be the first solid thing Zaslav's ever done under his reign. Just saying, like, so kudos where, you know, kudos are due. And everybody go see this thing. If I'm not mistaken, it's only 2 nights, September 21st and September 25th. And it's a Fandango event, so it's going to cost you a little bit for the ticket, but well worth it. Go see this documentary. And then watch it 85 more times on Max. Because that's what I'm going to do.
Exactly. Well, some interesting rumors have been popping up over social media, over, you know, the trades and things like that. People have been talking about Ted Lasso. Is it going to be revived for another season, the 4th season? Warner Brothers Television has picked up the options on the original cast members, such as Hannah Waddingham, Brett Goldstein, Jeremy Swift, and it is believed that Jason Sudeikis is involved in the revival in some capacity as an executive producer, but Warner Brothers has decided to decline commenting on any of these rumors in the rumor mill. This is going to be very interesting if that happens, because, like, why? You know, you said that last season was going to be the last season. It was going to wrap it all up. You know, it is what it is. I mean, television and streaming right now are very, you know, short. And we have another story that we got to talk about a little bit further down the line, where it was supposed to be a last season, but now they're continuing talking about moving forward. It's instances like this, because the terminology cash grab has been thrown around so much recently. And I said it with the Wolverine thing. So I'm worried that, you know, for situations like this, are they just cash grabs? Are they just trying to come back and capitalize on, you know, the much beloved IP, and it won't be as genuine, as rewarding, as successful as the original or the previous seasons, because, you know, they're trying to force something that doesn't need to be forced, that may have already been kind of tied up in a nice little pretty bow that they untie real quick. So yeah, that's my opinions on it. I mean, what are your thoughts and opinions?
Well, so because season 3 definitively tied up Ted's storyline. Right? Yeah. So it wrapped it up all nice and everything. But I think that they're hinting at that this might be what Yellowstone, and we'll talk about Yellowstone, is also doing. It's season 4 without Ted. I think this will be a continuation of the story without Ted. And that's very clear, because they're hinting at it that Jason is involved as an executive producer. But I feel like if his acting contract was also picked back up, they would have said that, and they did not. They only picked up the options on a few of the cast members, which says to me that if they do pick this up and it does greenlight for a season 4, it's going to follow those characters and not Ted. Maybe he'll do an appearance. Maybe he'll, you know, they'll hint at what he's doing or where he's at, but I feel like it's going to move forward without Ted Lasso.
These people too, their characters, it's centered around the management of the team. Like, not the coaches, but the actual owners and the management of it. Yep. So yeah, I think that's how they.
But then the question becomes, do people want to see a Ted Lasso without Ted Lasso? Like, that's the question.
Ted Lasso. How do you not have Ted Lasso?
It'd be like doing Frasier without Frasier. But the characters around Ted Lasso were interesting and unique, and you wanted to follow those stories because of Ted. So without Ted, does that continue? And my answer to that is probably not. But we'll see. We're going to find out. And that's not the only one. We've actually got 2 other stories in here where I'm going to make that same question. Will people want to see certain characters without other characters? Because we're going to find out. But I'm with you.
That's for sure.
I think this might be a cash grab, and I'm not so sure it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. It really is. But that's not the only thing happening at Warner Brothers this week that we want to talk about. The big thing has been because, streaming wars, everybody's trying to get into the sports game now. We saw last year that Max had the end season tournament and they had some playoff games and things like that. Netflix had some games, some award shows. Paramount, of course, they do March Madness. But Netflix has moved to shut down Warner Brothers Discovery's ambitious legal battle effort to force the league to restore some portion of its media rights to the specific company, which is Warner Brothers Discovery. NBA is seeking a dismissal of this case, alleging that Warner had in fact failed to match the terms of the package of games that it had been embarked for Amazon Prime Videos. Because if you guys don't know, we did report on the show a couple episodes ago. Amazon Prime Video, they won the bidding battle of who's going to get NBA games on streamers. Warner Brothers Discovery thought they had that right since they did have the end season tournament for the last season. But I mean, Amazon, they have money. They have a lot of freaking money. And then Zaslav gets very angry that he didn't win that battle. So then he sues the NBA because he didn't win that battle. So he's trying to approach it from like a different standpoint to where they just chose favorites and we were basically supporting the same thing. We were blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I just think, this is again Zaslav just trying to whine like a little baby because he didn't get what he wants. And Amazon Prime, I think eventually Amazon Prime is going to move in kind of the Apple space where it's going to be a hub for all of the different streamers because it's already kind of like that. They just produce more content than Apple. But anyway, yeah, this specific scenario, I think it's just freaking Warner Brothers is trying to get what they want and they can't. And NBA is like, this is not worth our time. Why are we even, trying to present this as a case in court? Like it makes no sense. So yeah, that's my opinions on what's going on.
Well, so I have mixed thoughts on this because I'm old, and Warner Brothers has basically been the home of the NBA on television for as long as I've been around.
TNT.
TNT, TBS. I mean, there wasn't if you wanted to catch a game, you were watching either TNT or TBS or NBC. And then recently ABC got it with ESPN. But for the most part, if you wanted to watch a game, you were tuning into TNT or TBS over the last 30, 40 years. I can't imagine the NBA not on TBS or TNT. It just it doesn't seem right to me. And what I think happened is because if you look at this lawsuit, Warner Brothers did indeed have the right to match Amazon's offer. And if they did match it, the NBA would have to award it to Warner Brothers. What I think happened is Zaslav in his fuckery tried to somehow skirt something somewhere, get a little better deal, make it a little cheaper, not pay as much money, whatever the fuck. He dropped the ball and somehow did not accurately match the package, and which is why they gave it to Amazon. So my guess is this court battle is going to be Warner Brothers attempting to show that they did indeed match the package. If they can prove that, Amazon is going to lose and it's going to go back to Warner Brothers. But I just think somewhere, somehow during this trial, if it goes to trial, we're going to find out Zaslav dropped the ball somewhere. And it's not an actual match the way he's claiming that it is. And they're going to lose. And I have no doubt that Zaslav probably did try to do some sort of fuckery somewhere and fucked it up. And so we're likely going to see the switch away from to Warner Brothers. But I'm going to blame that on Zaslav because I think somewhere, somehow he tried to screw the NBA and it backfired. And now he's going to lose it. And that is a shit ton of revenue that Warner Brothers is now out. So,
and I also think even if they do win this battle and stuff does go back to Warner Brothers and, all of their channels, like the NBA is still going to try after that contract is up to move elsewhere.
Without doubt.
Like nothing substantial happens over that contract term. So I just, you're burning bridges to a point where you don't need to burn bridges.
Yeah,
you know?
and I mean, at one point, you just entered into a deal to have a streamer partnered with Disney and all these things, right? And then you tried to even kick Disney out of this deal. Zaslav didn't even want ESPN and ABC to have rights to the games, which, by the way, the NBA did keep those in place. You will see NBA games on ESPN and ABC as we have over the last 10 years or so. They also got a new contract. But the way that he was trying to just like get everybody out of it except for Warner Brothers, it's like you are burning bridges, my man, and like you, especially in a point where streamers, and this will be a great segue into the next one, they are all talking now about combining into one single place where all of your streaming content is available, where all the studios would partner. And we've already seen it with HBO and Disney Plus and Hulu. And now, we're talking about other ones considering making the same type move, which will transition us to Paramount in a minute. If you burn bridges, you're going to fuck yourself on that stuff. Don't be stupid, because your very survival might be dependent upon partnerships with other studios. And this is just a classic move by Zaslav to not do the right thing. And I just... So... Let's jump over. Let's talk about, as you guys know, Skydance has it done, right? It's going to be a merger. They're going to save Paramount. They're going to come in. They're going to take it. They have a plan. But you also know we reported that there was a go shop window that nobody thought was going to be executed. And we talked about it last week, but it was executed. Somebody said, wait a minute, at the very last minute, right before the deadline, said, we're going to entertain this. And Edgar Brofman Jr. offered an additional $1 billion and tried to like sway Sherry away from. I think this was all bullshit, because we learned this week that Edgar dropped out. Like out of nowhere, he pops in and then he just out of nowhere drops out. I think this was a sad, pathetic attempt by Redstone to get Skydance to pay more money. It didn't work, and then she realized it wasn't going to work, and Bronfman said, I don't want any part of this, I'm out. And so now we are learning, and in fact today, as we're recording this show, I learned that it is a done deal. The Go Shop is over. This merger will happen at the beginning of 2025. Skydance will take control of Paramount Global, and it's a done deal. Well, the merger will start to happen. Done deal? We don't know, because the government is still involved, and that's all got to go. But the process will start at the beginning of 2025. I just don't get it. I didn't understand why Bronfman had any reason to try to like come in and spoil that, other than like my thought process was, this was just a sick attempt to try to get Skydance to pay an additional $1 billion, and it didn't work. It makes no sense to me. There's no point to come in for a couple of days and then pull back out. It made no sense.
Yeah, it was very interesting. It was like a maximum week and a half, 2 weeks time from when he announced to when he dropped out. So it wasn't anything substantial. And like, I wonder if he even started like taking meetings or doing any of those things, or if it was just a media run to where like it was a thing to where like everybody was scrambling a little bit, which would have been super shitty on Sherry's part if she was behind it, because like you have somebody who's willing to take care of this legacy company and continue moving forward basically at the same rate, if not, I mean, a little changes here or there, obviously because of different management, but I mean, they're still willing to keep it all intact and not split it up. So yeah, it would be super shitty if that's what happened.
Well, it came out after he pulled out, and it was all kind of go. They also said that the current CEOs of Paramount Global, in their earnings call just recently, told Wall Street that they are now looking at options on how to move forward with Paramount Plus, which is what I was talking about earlier. It's profitable. It was profitable this last quarter and will continue to be profitable throughout the rest of this year and into 2025. That's good. We also heard recently that Disney had become profitable with their streamer finally, blah, 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 blah. But the cost of maintaining it is still an issue. And they are looking at strategic plans of what to do. they're looking at possibly licensing content to other streamers. But it looks like the plan that they are most focused on is partnering with another streamer like Max and Disney Hulu did, to provide one place where you can just go get your Paramount Plus content. And as you know, Paramount Plus isn't just Paramount Plus content, but it's also all the CBS content on the streamer. So that's where they're looking and think that they feel they could probably be most profitable, and makes the most sense. But they're not taking any of the other stuff off the table either, like licensing some content to Netflix or whatever. What I did like, as I saw that Ellison from Skydance is, before this merger is complete or whatever, is staying away from it. He's like, whatever they're planning on doing or whatever, but he said that Paramount Plus is a priority for him and he understands the value and the content, but he's not interfering with what they are trying to do prior to the merger, which says a lot to me on how, you guys also know that the guy that's going to be taking over as CEO once the merger is complete is the former head of NBC Universal, which would kind of say to me that the potential let's merge with another streamer, Peacock and Paramount Plus, seems like a smart move to me. Peacock's got a lot of great content, but also struggling a little bit. CBS and Paramount Plus also have a lot of great content, and now, while just profitable, still having to figure out how to stay profitable. That combined content, I think, would be really huge, because you'd get Showtime, right? All the Showtime content, all the Paramount Plus content, all the CBS content, and then if that merges, you'd get all the Peacock content, all the NBC content, the WWE content, Hallmark content, all in one place. That seems like a no-brainer to me.
It's a lot of cult following.
That it is, and I feel like that would be profitable for both. So I do think, though, you and I have talked about this, inevitably at some point, and maybe we can't include Netflix because Netflix is going to be Netflix. I do think they're all going, Apple, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Max, Disney, Hulu, they're all going to end up in one spot where we pay like $69.99 a month and we have access to all of our stuff. I think that's where it's headed. It makes the most sense for the industry. It makes the most sense for all the studios. I do it because right now you're talking about we're paying 30 here, 20 there, 14 there, 17 there. I'm willing to just pay a little bit more for all one place because it, in the long run, would end up being cheaper. And it's all right there. I like when I can go into my Apple app and go to Paramount Plus or the other ones and just click on what I want to see. So, I don't know. That's my thought process on it. What do you? Do you like the idea of them all being in one spot or?
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't. Probably easier to be in one spot because honestly, I forget about Paramount Plus a lot because we use it through our Apple TV app.
Right.
And I don't go to Apple a lot. Unless there's like a big show on, like a morning show or Masters of the Air or anything like that.
It's like, mostly it's for CBS, right? It's like, I feel like we go there for Survivor, Fire Country, and Tracker.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Which those things are all on at the same time. So if they're not on, like, I'm not going to the service.
Yeah. Because, you totally forgot about a whole season of the morning show. You had to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
So I feel you. Yeah, I feel you.
It's interesting. And we're back. Oh my goodness. I don't know how to feel about it. I really don't, because Taylor Sheridan's hit Yellowstone will likely not be ending with season 5. Deadline confirmed this past week that negotiations are underway for a 6th season of the flagship drama that will be headed by, of course, the Yellowstone standouts Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser. I don't know about this, man. That's what I'm saying. Kevin Costner, we all know that drama. We all know that situation. Just wanting to move forward, move past Yellowstone, which, makes sense in regards to everything that he wants to do with his life and his career. But I just, it wasn't Matthew McConaughey supposed to come to this flagship Yellowstone? Like, wasn't that supposed to be how they were going to move forward?
Okay, so initially, I think that was the plan. But then Sheridan kind of came up with, let's spin it off into another modern day set one, right? Because Yellowstone's set modern day.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And I mean, Patrick J. Adams, and they just keep, it seems like every day they're announcing new people on this new spin-off that's coming set in the modern day. In a different location. It's not going to be at the ranch. It's not going to be in Yellowstone. So that's where they're going. But this makes it, because they always said that they were planning on continuing without Costner. And everybody was like, well, how are they going to do that if you don't have a Dutton? Because it's the Dutton Ranch, and it's like... So this says to me that... Because if you guys didn't see also, they released the first trailer for the back half of season 5 finally after 18 years and 4 months. And it's implying that battle between Beth and Jamie is still going on, right? And they... So I think that Jamie... This is just my thought process on it. I think that Jamie is going to successfully kill Daddy and think that he has the ranch... because you have to kill John. You cannot have Yellowstone without... If John Dutton's still alive, you have to have John Dutton. So, and we all know Costner's not coming back. He's not even appearing in the back half. So, you got to kill him. And as you guys know, spoilers for anybody, I know it's been like a gazillion years since we saw the first half of season 5, but Jamie is plotting to kill him because there's some shit going down. I think that's going to happen, and then I think Beth is going to take care of Jamie. And obviously not gonna be okay with Daddy dying. She's gonna take out the fake Dutton anyway, right? Because we all know Jamie's not blood. And then they'll continue on, which makes sense to me as to why they're the two being negotiated to come back, right? Because let's be honest about it, Rip is entitled. John has said over and over that he felt like Rip was a son anyway, right? Like he felt like he'd rather give the ranch to Rip over Jamie anyway. And of course, Beth is a Dutton. So I just feel like this makes sense. You keep the ranch in the Dutton hands. It goes to the people that know the ranch, love the ranch, want the ranch. And Rip is basically John. He's going to take people to the train station. He's going to do whatever he has to do to maintain that ranch. So you won't lose what makes Yellowstone Yellowstone. It's just going to be Beth and Rip now. I think maybe that's a good way to move forward. I'm kind of excited about it because I wanted to see a continuation of the story, and it only makes sense because they keep doing these prequel ones, right? We know 1823 or whatever it was, 1887 and 1923 got picked up for another season, and all. How can you keep telling those stories and then not know what's happening current day, right? So I feel like it's okay, and I think there's an audience. I think that Beth and Rip have always been fan favorite characters anyway.
Agreed.
So in the instance where I said, do I think people would follow the characters of Ted Lasso without Ted Lasso? I don't think so. But in this case, I do think they would follow Rip and Beth without John. I do. I think this is a move that will work. How long? I don't know. But I think they can get a couple more seasons out of this bad boy following these characters. And then who knows? Then you do have the possibility of another Dutton popping up at some point, right? We don't know.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I like this idea. I like this idea, and I'm excited to see how they close out the John Dutton storyline and then move forward. I am.
Yeah, completely agree. But this next one, super excited about. Oh my goodness, we're heading over to Netflix, and they're talking about bringing back One Tree Hill. I'm not gonna lie, I really think over the past couple of years they do like a reunion game in Wilmington, North Carolina,
right,
in the gym, in the high school gym where the series was shot. So I definitely think that Netflix was paying attention to that, and Sophia Bush, Hillary Burton, and Danielle Ackles, they were all paying attention and seeing how popular all of that was over like TikTok and social media. which obviously geared people to go watch the original series, like myself and my wife, on Max, which we did. And it only makes sense because I feel like, you want to catch up to see where people are. But we do know that Sophia Bush, Hilary Burton, and like I said, Danielle Ackles are executive producing this reboot. And we are producing it under the Chaos Machine banner alongside, of course, her husband, Jensen Ackles. Becky Harmon Edwards is attached to write and executive produce this thing. Warner Brothers Television, which produced the original series, will also produce this follow up. And then, Sophia Bush and Hilary Burton would reprise their roles from the show. And Ackles is also in talks to return. But it's awesome that Burton is set to return because remember, guys, there was 3 seasons without Chad Michael Murray and Hilary Burton because of some behind the scenes drama. So obviously, without that piece being in, they're all involved, or at least the females are involved.
Okay, so, and that would probably explain something that I'm about to drop that I saw today that probably will not make people happy, but it would explain that, and I'm glad you transitioned into that. One, all of the originals are not going to be there. Notice they said nothing about Bethany Joy Lenz.
Nope.
Right, so that seems odd because I feel like, can you have the original trio without one of the original trio? I feel like, and I love Bethany. She was one of my favorite characters. But what you just said, because of the behind the scenes drama, and I know that they've probably mended. I think that they have mended that kind of a thing. Probably because my boy Chad was terrified that Jeffrey Dean would fucking kill him. No. But
no, it wasn't that. It was the showrunner.
Oh,
Chad,
okay.
Murray and Burton left together.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anyway, Chad not coming back.
Yeah.
It was announced today that Chad will not be a part of it. I feel like while it did last a couple seasons when he left, I mean, he's basically the show. And I don't know if you can do this revival and want to see where everybody's at now, what's going on, and not have him involved. I don't know if
he was the show in the high school years. I'll say that. He was not the show in adult years, and there was more adult years than there was high school years. So I mean,
true, but would you not say though that even though that is true, he was the most popular on the show. He was the most popular character that came off the show. And I feel like if you're trying to relaunch it, right, I feel like you would kind of need the popular one to, even if it's just like a guest appearance or a quick in and out for a couple of episodes. But I feel like you need him to draw that audience because, that'd be like doing the Suits thing without, like if they were announced, and not the Suits spinoff, but like the original Suits, if they were like, oh yeah, we're coming back, and you wouldn't have Donna, or you wouldn't have you can't do that. So I just feel like,
after the high school years, the storylines really shifted to being mostly about the men to being mostly about the women.
Right.
So by the end of the show, a lot of the things were about the females. So that's the only reason I'm saying that. So if you pick back up kind of where they left off or a few years later, obviously time gap. But I just think, I think it'll be okay. And once he sees the popularity and sees his fellow cast members having fun, I think he would come back.
I think
because he comes back to those games.
Yeah, no, he totally does.
He would come back.
And if I'm not mistaken, he's even been a guest on the podcast. Like, I think this is what launched this. I think this is even why the reason this is happening is because they were doing a rewatch podcast of this.
Yeah.
Bethany Joy Lenz and Hilary Burton Morgan and Sophia Bush do a rewatch. And then Bethany left for some reason. I don't know if it was to go focus on her book tour or whatever. But that's when Daniil came in and is now the co-host on that show also. But that was a huge podcast and continues to be a huge, and I think that the popularity of that and the interest in people watching it again definitely played into Netflix going, hey, we're pretty good at rebooting series and giving them others. So and I love it. I love that Jensen will be involved. He's killing it behind the scenes with his company. Like, and he's got a deal with Warner Brothers. So anybody who's wondering, like, why is this happening at Netflix? What's going on? Well, it's a Warner Brothers produced show, like you said. And Jensen and Daniil have a deal with Warner Brothers, which only makes sense that, you know, they would be involved in that. So, you know, I hope so. I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like the same thing because we didn't mention it back in the Ted Lasso section. I mean, you have production companies from other companies that get distributed through other companies, like Ted Lasso being a Warner Brothers television project, but also comes out on Apple TV.
Exactly.
So you know, there's different ways to maneuver everything. Everything is really a cash grab to make sure we all survive in the entertainment industry. But yeah, it's very interesting. So we'll see how it continues to move forward, and of course, we'll always be talking about it just in case anything else breaks. But now it is time for our guest. That's right. We got the one and only Charlotte Kirk, and she is the reason I learned how to spell Charlotte. I'm not even going to lie. I lived in Charlotte for 4 years, never knew how to spell it, but because of Charlotte Kirk, I now know how to spell Charlotte. So thank you, Charlotte.
I don't even know what to say about that.
It's fine.
Yeah, we're writing a series where Charlotte is a main character, and
not my character.
No, but you do write her sometimes, like reference her sometimes, and so yeah, that is pretty funny. Anyway, this is a really good interview, regardless of whether we can or cannot spell her name. It's. Like I said, this is a really good one for the up-and-comers because this is someone that comes from across the pond, jumps over here, has to try to figure it out, saw initial success, but then didn't see some success and had to transition into, I got to write my own stuff. I got to create content for myself. I've got to do this. So it's another one of those really educational and fun interviews that really will be helpful for the up-and-comers, and she's a gem to talk to. And the film is interesting, and the concept of how that all came about and what the film is about and the uniqueness of the film. It's all really good. I can't wait for everybody to hear this one. I think they're going to enjoy it.
For sure. Well, here she is.
Charlotte Kirk, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you?
I'm really good. Yes, here in the UK, and the sun is shining, so that's not very common here, so it's nice.
Well, fantastic. It must be something. It means something good for this interview, I think, if the sun is shining and everything is fantastic. Well, we are super excited to talk to you today. We're going to talk all about the latest film, Duchess, available to rent right now on all the platforms, so we're excited. It's a very interesting film. It's a little bit unique in nature with the storyline and everything, so we're super excited to talk about that. But what we like to do, just to kind of start things off or anything, for anybody that might not be familiar with you, we kind of talk about a little bit about how you got started in the industry. Was acting something you always knew you wanted to do? Did you kind of fall into it? How did it start?
There wasn't really a defining moment where, you know, I saw something and was like, oh my God, I have to do this. It was more of a gradual thing. I'd always loved drama class in school, elementary school, and I then asked my parents if they could put me in drama classes at the weekends. Musical theatre school, dance, drama and singing, which I absolutely loved. And it was really once I'd finished school, I was like, do you know what, this is what I have to do. This is what I love. This is what I live for, you know, going to drama school at the weekends. I just love it. And I was 19 years old and someone said to me, Charlotte, if you want to be an actress, go to the US. So I said, okay. I didn't think twice. I packed up my bags and went to the US. Didn't know anyone. So I went to New York first, and then on to LA. So yeah, and then the rest is history, really. The US, US is the ticket. You wanna be an actress? Go there. So I was like, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. I feel like this is an industry you have to be all in. It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
There's no maybe fallback. So for me, it was always, failure wasn't an option, or going back to the UK. I just knew that, like anything in the entertainment business, I mean, anything in any business really, I feel like if it's something you really want to do, you have to go all in. You have to go all in and not have, a backup plan or think twice about it.
No, that's
Most definitely. And I mean, especially feeling a sense of purpose when at such a young age, being in elementary school and, trying to support extra time on the weekends to make sure you scratch that creative itch. So to take that leap of faith and going over to the United States across the pond, as we like to say, what was your first initial reactions when you get here, you land, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? What were your first steps to try to break into it?
I actually remember getting off the plane and going straight from the plane to an audition.
Oh, wow.
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 Yeah, it was kind of literally running and not stopping. Like I had these blinkers on, and I had like, this tunnel vision and just went for it. And just taking meetings after meeting. I do believe work gets work, so taking every opportunity possible. I think my first ever film was Black Dog, Red Dog with James Franco. It was like a student film. Then I met some people from that, and that helped get my next film. And then I realised a lot of the meetings and auditions were in LA. So then I moved to LA like 6 months after.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of stage work in LA actually. And that helped get me film work. There was a few people that saw me on stage in LA, and that helped me book quite a few jobs. So and then I was there for a good 10 years, and I was steadily working as an actress. And I would say it was a few years ago when there was a lot of roles that I really wanted to play that I didn't have the opportunity to play. I wasn't getting those roles, and I think good scripts are really hard to come by.
Yeah,
good scripts with female leads are even more difficult to come by.
Yeah, most definitely.
So that's when I was like, I think I just got to create and write and produce my own stuff.
Love that.
That's kind of how it came about. And Duchess actually would be my full film that I've kind of co-wrote, produced, acted in as well. So, all in. Even up to today, all in.
Okay, so much to unpack there. First, and I'm glad you said the 6 months between New York and LA, because my first question was, I was thinking like that's got to be quite the culture shock coming from London to New York, right? And then New York is so drastically different than LA. So making those, so that's kind of a quick turnaround between all those three locations. Was there any kind of adapting, or were you able to just be like, okay, New York's great, LA's great? Was there any kind of I need to figure out because this is so different from what I'm used to?
I think because I was so young.
Yeah.
I think when you're like 19, you're still kind of a child, that you're very adaptable and you're a sponge. So I think, thinking of moving to another country today would absolutely terrify me. Like, how did I do that?
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. It was more of a gradual thing.
Nice.
Like, I have 2 cases with me, and I thought I'll be back in a couple of months, and then it was 6 months, and then it was a year. So it was in my mind it was gradual. It wasn't, but it was bit by bit.
Well, and then the next thing too, because like I said, and this is impressive because as you said, you were young, and so you were just all in, and you were gunning and fearless and everything, and yet you are already smart enough, because a lot of people don't figure it out early, to understand the importance of taking jobs, because jobs lead to jobs, and networking. Understanding that it's not necessarily the job, it's a student film, or it's a free commercial, or whatever, but it's the people you meet who can introduce you to the people you meet who get you the jobs that you want. And so to understand that, basically coming right off the plane at 19, that's fantastic, because like I said, a lot of people in the industry struggle and don't figure it out for whatever reason, whether it's ego or whatever. They're like, that role's too small for me. I don't have a speaking role. It's a student film, and they won't do it. And it's like, well, and then you're wondering.
One of my first movies was playing a corpse.
Yeah, exactly.
Being on set, and that's how you learn, and that's how you meet, and that's kind of my advice today. If anyone says what's the best advice, it would be take every opportunity, as you said. As work gets work, one job leads to another. 100%.
Right.
You have to do it, and you might do it and hate it, but you have to try it, because I believe you have to. You might do it and hate it, but then at least you can say you tried. My biggest thing is regret something you didn't do. I'd rather regret something that I did do. And I have to do those. But, I'd rather that than not doing anything.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
most definitely. And I mean, we're here to talk about Duchess. You brought it up a little bit earlier. We're very excited about it because over the past couple years, we haven't really seen this type of film with a female leading actress in
good
that
point.
particular role, which we need more of. I mean, the last one that comes to mind is like Peppermint with Jennifer Gardner.
Yeah.
That was like what, 4 freaking years ago or something like
Maybe
that,
longer,
maybe
yeah.
even longer. But I mean, you just look like such a badass in this thing. First of all, you definitely look like you can throw a punch. So let's talk about the preparation for this role. I mean, did you have to go in intense like fighting combat training before heading into this thing, or like how was the preparation?
I mean, it was physically challenging,
Mm-hmm.
but remember, very important that we wrote her to be. She's not a superhero. She's not,
Right.
she's a regular girl. But having said that, she did have to be a great boxer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was very important, and that comes into play later on. So yes, I did do quite a lot of a good 2 weeks, 3 weeks with the stunt guys, and again, it's almost like learning a dance. It's like a choreography. I mean, one
Yeah.
of the hardest days on set actually was very, very tough. It was literally the full day of me in the boxing ring. It was almost like trying to pat my head and rub my belly at the same time. I'm learning, remembering all the moves and the lines at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
But it was great. But yeah, that was one of the most challenging things, is learning that I come across like a believable boxer.
Well, and so let's talk about the story a little bit, because that's an excellent point. She basically starts off as just a small time little thief, just trying to take care of herself, just trying to figure it out, right? And ends up in this crazy organized crime world of diamonds and smuggling and stuff. So you're right. She's not this action hero. She's not this badass who's been doing this her whole time. She's basically falls into this and figures out, well, now I've got to learn how to survive in this world, because apparently I'm in this world now.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy, because people she thought that she could trust, she really couldn't trust, and she's kind of manipulated, and there's some stuff that she feels like she's got to correct because some people did her wrong. Talk about that, just the whole process of that, the evolution of the character throughout the film, because I feel like her character develops throughout the film very extensively, from where she starts off as Scarlet to where she ends up as Duchess, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I almost say it's almost like a My Fair Lady story. She doesn't become like proper RP Queen's English, not to remotely that, but I think that this whole evolution of her emotional arc and her development, as you said, she just trying to get through life. She's almost in this fish tank bubble in this small world, and she falls in love.
Right.
That's really what it is, in love. And it just so happens this guy is the head of a diamond syndicate organization. And I don't want to give any spoilers away, but she and others are betrayed, and she ends up taking revenge. But I think it's very important to say, as much as it is a gangster movie, it's a revenge movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of movies today, as you said, Peppermint, the revenge happens in 5 minutes. I don't understand as an audience member how you're meant to be rooting and caring for these characters within like the revenge happening within 5 minutes. A big inspiration for this film was Man on Fire with Denzel Washington. You get to love the character, and within an hour, that's when the revenge happens. And then you're really rooting for them. This film, I'm hoping, you laugh, you cry, you have all these different roller coaster of emotions. So it was very tough to make sure that I play it. Obviously, I have a, if any film you can be as bold and as big in terms of performances, I think it's a gangster movie, right?
Mhm.
Look at Al Pacino in Scarface. But at the same time, there was also making sure that I wasn't going way over the top. So there was definitely that fine line of making sure I play it not, too obscene, absurd, but still at the same time, she was very rooted and grounded, and she just, but also having that transition of her becoming Duchess. And I think one of the lines, one of the characters says, like, since she's got back, she's not the same anymore. And it's that having that transition. And a big thing for me is emotional continuity.
Right.
Even though changes, making sure that the emotional continuity in her character is the same. Otherwise, it's like, well, this isn't even the same character. And yes,
Right.
she's still Scarlet. So that was challenging, and the boxing was. But I think, overall, it's like any great film. It's an action film, but it's got layers to it as well. It's about love, betrayal, and family, and all these other things as well. And I think that's what makes a great film.
Well, and that's what I was just about to say. I love how it kind of mirrors real life in the sense of emotion and in the sense of betrayal, because obviously big things don't happen like this to normal people in everyday life. But I mean, betrayal happens where you hear somebody talking about you, or, death always happens in families and things like that. So to be able to portray that in such an exaggerated way, and in a way that I feel like, pop culture is very fascinated with the mobster culture, the revenge culture, the wanting the big explosions in life. Like, we get that in our mind. We get the fireworks when we have the first kiss, but to be able to kind of represent that in more of a grounded way, the way y'all did in this film, I feel like is very relatable, and which is very special to see, because there's so many different types of things out there that you feel like are so, as far as like thought processes, they're so out of reach and out of touch with reality. So to hone that in a sense to where like it's grounded in reality, but you still have that excitement of explosions and revenge. I think that is what's very special what this film is doing.
Thank you so much. Exactly. It's the rooted, everyone can relate to it on any level. Love, betrayal, friends, family. But then also at the same time, it's heightened reality because it is a movie, and Neil wanted to make it as entertaining as possible, and he's definitely got 70s vibe with all the colours.
Yes, for sure.
In that respect, but then it's believable as well, and hopefully you do. She is an anti-hero, but I'm hoping you're on her side because we've taken the time. Her vengeance is, you're rooting for her because you think, they deserve it. Like there's a
and that's the key to a successful film and character within the film, is to make them likable, even if they're doing stuff that's not so likable, right? But you feel for the character, right? Every villain is doing it because they think what they're doing is right. So whether it's a villain or an anti-hero or whatever the case, they always genuinely believe they are doing it for the right reason, and that they're what they think that. So you have to have that. You have to make the character likable or connectable, or it doesn't work. And I think you guys did a really good job of making that work. You do feel for her. You do feel like this vengeance is necessary because she deserves to have this stuff. And so it works really, really well. You mentioned kind of more at the top that this was the fourth one. So you're writing and producing, which is just a whole nother. Anybody in the industry that's only been on the acting side of it, or anybody that's not familiar with the industry doesn't understand producing and what kind of a beast producing is in itself. So to take that on, and then of course the creative aspect of writing and the acting. The industry's, everybody who's in the industry knows it. Suits and creatives. Anytime that you can find people who are both and able to successfully pull it off as a suit and a creative, that's something special, and it doesn't happen very often. It's rare that you're able to do both. My question for you, though, is, since you have done the producing and you've toiled in the writing and you've been in front of the camera, is directing on the horizon, or do you see yourself directing now that you've got all that other stuff going on? Well, maybe directing yourself in something.
Oh my gosh. Never say never.
Right.
There you go.
But there's I still want to master. I feel like in any art form, you're never not satisfied, but you're always striving for perfection, which you'll never get. Right. So I always want the best I can be as an actress and as a writer first.
Right.
But again, never say never. I love just acting is really what I love to do, and producing and writing is more out of necessity, I guess. The two films we had done before this were very, very different. One was The Lair, which was a sci-fi action film, and then one was The Reckoning, which was a horror. Right. And then me and Neil was sitting there one day and was like, what should we do next? movies. Some of my favorite movies are gangster movies, but I've never seen a woman boss before. Why don't we do that? And that's literally how that idea came about. And then actually we did shoot something last year that's coming out next year called Compulsion, which is very different. It's like an erotic horror.
Okay.
Shot in mortar, so it's kind of inspired by, you remember the old Italian giallo movies?
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely got that vibe going on. So I'm very Duchess, but I'm really excited about Duchess. I'm really riding this wave of just, you know, people loving it and enjoying it. You know, we wrote it in 2018, we shot it in 2022. It was quite a long time out now. So, and so far, I mean, you know, people are liking it. So I'm hoping, you know, it's going to be one of those films that people are just going to love for a long time.
I think, I think you're in luck. I think people are gonna be drawn to it, like I said, because you did a really good job, you guys, of formulating characters in a story that people can connect to, and that's what it's all about. So I think you guys are gonna see some success with it for sure.
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually going to Lisbon next week in Portugal to do the premiere there, so that was really cool. And then I was in LA 2 weeks ago doing the premiere there, and that was so cool just to see obviously the other cast members and seeing it with an audience on the big screen. And that was very, very, that's very rewarding to me, you know, get the reaction of the audience.
Oh, most definitely. Because I mean, you got to scratch that creative itch for yourself, but I mean, it's all about the audience. You want them to feel something. You want them to start conversations, and yeah, that's what we try to do. We're filmmakers as well, and that's what we try to do with our films. So we are right there with you. Sometimes it can be a struggle, especially in current day times. Like for example, we made a school shooter film basically, and it was right around the time where there was some school shooter stuff happening. So. Yeah, it got a little rough.
It's in the zeitgeist, and it's something that needs to be, you know, in a way, shined a light on. It's a real tragic thing.
It is.
So
exactly. And I mean, sometimes you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, it's one of those things where you got to spark conversation. You got to have these conversations so that we can keep moving forward and keep getting better as a humanity and society and all of these different things.
No, I feel like the audiences today are so desensitized with so much stuff out there. You have to slap them around the face and say, look at this. It's like some of the stuff in Duchess is pretty outrageous, and my whole thing was go as big and as bold as and outrageous as possible, because right now audiences have seen it all. Pretty much. So it has to be exceptional writing, exceptional, like, out there, violence, this, whatever you want, throw it out there, because literally they've seen it all anyway.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Most definitely. Well, what we like to do towards the end of our interviews is have our guests answer a little bit of popcorn questions. We love this segment because it's a fun way to end the episode or end the segment to where we can get to know you a little bit more about your personality, your likes, your dislikes, all the good things. So on this specific set, on Duchess, what was the most memorable or the funniest moment on this set?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and it's not great at all. I got COVID, and so did the director.
Yeah.
Like the first thing that comes to mind, because it's terrifying, and it's just one of those things. But again, we got through it. We got it in the can. But it was very touch and go. You know, we had to stop filming for a couple of days. A lot of films shut down. So yeah, that was the first thing that come to mind.
Well, that's memorable.
We understand. Yeah, we understand the health problems. We went through the same thing, so we're right there with you.
Yeah, we shot ours during COVID as well. So yeah, the whole protocol, we know the stuff. Okay, so here's a fun one, and I'm real curious for your answer on this one. If you could live inside any film or television show, which one would it be and why?
Right.
I'm currently watching Bridgerton. Maybe currently watching it. And I'm kind of in love with the era and the costumes and the horses and carts and the society of England.
Right.
It's just because I'm currently watching it right now. oh my God, that's really hard though. And then there's certainly, because all of the films that I like are like horror and sci-fi, so I'm not sure if I'd want to live in those.
Right?
Yeah, unless I'm like Ripley and Alien and I get away, that would be pretty terrifying and horrific. But so, yeah, right now I'd say Bridgerton, or because I'm like obsessed with dogs, maybe 101 Dalmatians.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that would be my like dream project, just to film with dogs all day long.
Well, there you go.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly. Talk about therapy at work.
Oh
my
yeah.
goodness.
Oh yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, this one is very interesting because we always get a wide range of answers for this one. If you could work with anyone, who would it be? Directors, actors, cinematographers, behind the camera. Was there that one specific person that you're just still wanting to work with?
Dead or alive, or alive?
Dead or alive.
I mean, if it was dead, because if I had to choose anyone, it would be Marlon Brando.
Yes.
I don't think there was anyone like him, and there will be anyone like him. I just think he transformed acting, didn't he?
He did.
I mean, one of his and actresses is Gone with the Wind and Vivian Leigh. Streetcar Named Desire, when you see him, I mean, she's phenomenal in it, but she's acting in those times when he comes along and he's so effortless and chilled and just really, you think, wow, like he just transformed acting, and he was so truthful, even though he didn't like acting or the industry.
Right.
But I think that'd be quite a phenomenal experience.
That is a great answer. Yeah, and I love that. I love the explanation, right? Not just a Marlon Brando. Okay, well, everybody loved Marlon Brando, but the explanation as to why. That was a really good explanation as to what your thought process is in choosing Marlon Brando. That was really good. Okay, now we're gonna get deep for a little bit, and you kind of touched on this at the top of the interview, but I'm real curious to see if you expand on it or whatever. If you could go back in time and tell your 10-year-old self something, what would it be?
Don't trust everyone. I've trusted, a lot of creatives can be kind of vulnerable, and we think that everyone is as kind and as sweet as us and genuine, and taking people for their, face value is not usually correct. So yeah, I would say just not trusting everyone and being more cautious.
It's great advice, and there's a reason why they call this industry swimming with sharks, right? You gotta look out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
literally. Especially when you said like being a suit and a creative, it's very tough navigating those waters. So because a lot of the suits don't give a damn about the creative at all. It's just about money, and that's fine because it's a business. We want to make money, but you don't have to screw people along the way.
Well said.
Most definitely. I'm actually really happy you brought that up, because earlier on in our conversation, like I was thinking about that while we were talking about the film, where, people at face value, they're very excited, very cheery, very wanting to work with you, but then you try to call them the next day or the following week or whatever, and they don't return your phone calls, or like you finally get to a point where you're producing alongside them, and then you raise the money and then you don't hear from them again. We actually just had a friend who lost out on a whole lot of money, like boots on the ground, ready to go, but then his investor was full of shit the whole time. So, it's one of those things where you have to be cautious. You have to be excited, but also be cautious at the same time. It's so unfortunate.
It's like taking, as you said, you want to take people for face value, and you're creatives, and you want to believe that everyone is as, authentic as you, and then
right.
Jaded at the same time. I think it's just until the money's in the account, until the paperwork signed, it's great. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Exactly. And the fifth and final one, and of course we know the answer to this one. We always do. Are you happy with your career so far?
Yes and no.
Okay.
No, because it's like, I think, as I said earlier, as a creative, you're always on to the next thing. You're always striving for perfection that you're never going to get. And I think that I am content. It's like, can you be content without happy, happy without being content?
Mm-hmm.
You know, any creative's really content. I am happy in my life, but I'm very happy about Duchess, but I still got a lot more to do.
Nice. There you go. There you go. Well, listen, you have been an absolute gem to talk to. You can tell that just you light up when you talk about the industry and the job and what you love to do. And that clearly shows. And we love talking to passionate people and like-minded people, which you clearly are. And just continued success. As you said, I have a feeling you're just getting started. I think that's going to be a long career with a lot of stuff coming. And we thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. It's been a lot of fun today.
Thank you. It has. I would love to come back anytime and talk to you about my other films as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, this is the part of the show where you can promote anything and everything. Be sure to leave your social media and all the good things. You know how it goes.
Right. Yes, my social. So Duchess, please watch. Amazon, all the usual suspects. Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, and in cinemas as well. On Instagram, Charlotte Kirk Official, and Facebook as well.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much today. We appreciate your time. Yes, open invite anytime you want to come back on and talk about your future projects and anything like that. We also have a mental health podcast as well if you ever want to come on that and talk about mental health. We're big advocates, so we love having all sorts of kind of discussions, so it's always very fun. But again, thank you again. Take care, and we'll be reaching out to you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Oh, man. What a phenomenal interview. I mean, first of all, taking time out of your day from across the pond. I mean, we've interviewed people from London. We've interviewed people from India. We've interviewed people from Australia.
Yeah.
Like, it's always so nice when you get the opportunity to do that because it's so different from our culture and day-to-day life. So it's nice to be able to talk to other creatives who are in different parts of the world. I think that's very special.
For sure. And we have a pretty good international audience, listening audience and stuff. So it's always great to be able to interview people from other parts of the world because we have listeners in other parts of the world that are there to tuning in. So it's always good. And like I said, yeah, I really enjoy talking to people who are clearly passionate about what they do. Right. Mm-hmm. And she clearly is. There was no doubt anytime through the interview that she loves what she does and she's looking forward to doing more. And I think she shared a lot of really good advice. Watch out for people because you can't trust everybody. Learn early that it's all about networking and being on set and taking jobs, right? So if anybody out there that is aspiring to get into the industry, listen to those pieces of advice because you can't go wrong if you do those things.
Most definitely. Thank you again, Miss Charlotte, for coming on the show. All right, now it's time for the top 5 segment, man. And this one's going to be exciting because maybe we have some different opinions on it. And I have an honorable mention that I don't want to mention until the very end. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what everybody thinks. But this week, it's going to be top 5 franchise properties that went too long. Of course, you have some in your mind that you're like, yeah, that one for sure. But then you still have fan bases that will still go see them, obviously, because they're huge moneymakers. So it's very interesting to see the balance of the counterculture, to see how everything interacts with each other. But back to the original format. I don't know why we switched up last week. It was kind of funny. But this week, my number 5 goes to Indiana Jones. I've been very vocal about this one. I don't like Indiana Jones, but I don't think you should have even went past the second one. There's 4, 5?
I want to say this last one was the 5th one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. It seemed because Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was the second one, right?
No, Raiders of the Lost Ark was the first one.
Was the first one? Okay. So I don't know. Like I said, I've never been a huge fan of these, so I just don't think they could have continued moving forward. I mean, once we got to the Crystal Skull bullshit, where it's like talking about aliens, and then obviously this last one did not do well at all. Nobody was talking about it. I just don't think it should have kept moving forward, especially when I feel like, Harrison is a very interesting guy to see where he actually wants to be and where he doesn't want to be, because he's got that sarcastic, deep undertone of a personality anyway. So like you never know if he really wants to be there or not. And that kind of shows a little bit in some instances. But yeah, number 5 for me, Indiana Jones.
I do agree. I enjoy Indiana Jones. I am a fan, but yeah, I do think that maybe it should have just been the original and the sequel and then end it.
Yeah.
You know, the third one I think everybody admits kind of wasn't what it should have been, and then to continue after that one probably was a mistake.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you there. I would agree with you there. I think it was
Yeah.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and then
Yep.
Indiana Jones and
The Last Crusade.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Last Crusade, and then Crystal Skull.
Right.
And then,
Yeah. So, but anyway, I would agree with you. I think that maybe this thing works with the first two and then stop. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm probably going to take some heat for my number 5, and I don't care because and I want to preface that I have thoroughly enjoyed this franchise and I
Right.
liked every film, even the last one. But I think it's time. I think it's time. We know everything we need to know about Sidney Prescott. It's over. It's over, people. It's like Scream. I'm talking Scream. You can only keep going back to the well so many times, okay? You have done well with exploring outside. You've done well with bringing in different characters. You've done well with kind of like, but it's all we've been there, done that now, and now it's a cash grab. Now they're trying to bring back, Nev Campbell and pay her a ton of money because they know these things keep making money. If you're going to do it, make this one the last one. Please, just make it the last one. Because they have been good. And I feel like you don't want to continue to run this thing into the ground where they become bad and people regret it. Right? So just, if you want to use this last one now that Sydney's coming back to definitively wrap up her storyline and just put a solid, we can't go any further end to her story, do that. But let it go after that. Please, let it go after that. This was a really original idea that worked really well, and a lot of spin-offs, movies that were similar spawned from it. Movies that were spoofs of it spawned from it. And it was all good, but it's time to let it go. That's all I'm saying. We have screamed our last scream. It's time to let it go. My number 5, Scream. Stop making them.
I know, right? I mean, especially after, your two people dropped out the last time to where you have to freaking get
Bring Sydney
back.
I mean,
Yeah, like-
exactly. Your attempt to move it forward without the original characters, well, you can't do that now.
Yeah,
So
because
just like,
I mean, you departed from one because of political views or like activist views, whatever you want to call it. And then Jenna Ortega obviously is a mega star now.
Yeah.
And being in anything and everything. So it's like you're not as important as Beetlejuice or Wednesday. So
no.
it's funny. But yeah, good pick. Even though I'm right there with you. I still enjoy them. But
I
don't
love
go
them,
too
but
far.
I want to continue to love them. That's my point.
Yeah.
So just don't kill it.
Exactly. Number 4 for us is one of those that we've talked about a million times, so it shouldn't be by any surprise. So when this topic of conversation comes up, you should expect this to be on both of our lists.
Yes.
And we're talking about Fast and Furious, the whole Fast and Furious franchise. Really, they got, even before Paul Walker died, because we always say that it should have ended before or after Paul Walker died, which it should have.
Totally.
Even before that, there were still some in between there, like Fast and Furious, or like, that they all have weird titles that incorporate that combination. It started to get a little cheesy. It started to get to where you're not racing anymore. You're like performing heists. You're like bank robbers. You're doing things for the government. You're on the run from the government. It started to be this unchanging event of just too much happening all at once. So I just feel like, it's one of those things where it's sad to say because it has made some people's career. Like I saw, this past weekend, for example, that Tyrese, he's in the
Yeah.
new 1992 movie. It's his film, and Vin Diesel went and supported him. Michelle Rodriguez went to support him, and I completely loved seeing that because it is a family, but it has turned into a point where you feel like you're getting too much of this. So yeah, I mean that's just my opinion. I don't feel like it should keep going. It was supposed to end with 10, but they keep going.
They're
Man. They
filming
keep
one now,
going.
from what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
think this is 11 that they're filming
yeah,
now.
he just posted a picture with like Paul Walker's original car. Apparently, it's back or like.
Goodness gracious. But yeah, that's my number 4, Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I'm going to keep this plain and simple, too. My number 4, sure, let's go with it. Fast and Furious, for all the same reasons. This was a really original idea that worked really well, and it probably could have been a great standalone, but if you wanted to do a couple more, great, but
Whatever,
definitely should have ended after Paul Walker's death. The whole story, in my opinion, the family was him and Paul's character, and with that was what the whole thing was based around. To have to start bringing in all these other, it didn't work for me. You should have, and also you often see Vin Diesel break down in tears talking about Paul and the importance of that relationship and how away from the franchise in real life they were family. And in my opinion, you're taking away from that. You're spoiling that relationship, that real life family bond.
It's exploiting
it. And after 11 fucking movies, let it go, man, because at this point you're now just tarnishing that relationship and that family, and it's time to just walk away from it. I totally agree.
Yeah, man, it sucks. It sucks. It's turned into a cash grab. That's
what it is. It's like
been the term of the episode 270 cash grab.
Yeah, cash grab.
So be sure. It's crazy. But another one too, number 3 for both of us is The Walking Dead. In my opinion, this one which is unfortunate because it was leading up to such a monumental moment with bringing in Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan, and this was supposed to be such an epic storyline. But season 7 was the start of the downfall. That's in my opinion, because then you had certain characters either die off, or you had certain characters, 1 or 2 seasons later, leave in a helicopter and never come back. And like all of these different things. So it's just, of course you keep introducing the new colonizations in this post-apocalyptic world, and then you start, losing the reason that people wanted to start watching this show. And I mean, it's hard too, because with a show like this, you can't keep going. And I think that's what The Last of Us is learning. And obviously with it being based off a video game and not a comic book, there's some differentiates there, but I mean, you can't keep going too far because you're gonna end up just telling the same story over and over again, just in a little bit different way. And I think that's what they're kind of doing, because they have these spin-offs that are still doing the same thing, and it's just become so unfortunate because the first 6 seasons were gold, I feel like, but then once you get past that, it starts to get a little rough.
Well, I think, first of all, it was a brilliant adaptation from the graphic novel. They did a really good job. They took a little liberty here, a little liberty there, but for the most part, it was a really stellar adaptation from the graphic novel. And it was rocking and rolling. I think where they made the big mistake, and where they could have probably continued for a few more seasons and had the audience that they had initially, is when they didn't follow through with the storyline properly with Negan and Carl. And that's where, in my opinion, they fucked up. Because they just went completely away from the graphic novel. Completely away from it. People were a little disturbed when they saw that graphic novel come to life with Negan bashing the shit out of Glenn's head and like fucking that. And I know that offset a few people that weren't familiar with the graphic novel. they're like, whoa, wait, what the fuck? Like, this is violent, crazy stuff. But they could have gotten over that. Because the storyline after that becomes the switch of Carl taking control. Carl, like, the whole thing is that Carl kind of came underneath Negan's wing and then basically betrays Negan and becomes the badass. He's the one that now runs the camp. And he's not his dad. He is not Rick. He's like, I've been fucking my eyes shot out. I've been through some shit. I don't take shit. I will kill you and not think twice. I'm a fucking badass. And that relationship, the damage between him and Rick, the bond between him and Negan, and then him asserting himself into control of the camp and being the different leader and leading forward. That, in my opinion, had they gone that route, would have saved the show, because those relationships and that story keeps people engaged. And you're like, oh, shit, Carl is, kind of when they walked away from that, I just think people, then they tried to spin Negan into a different way, and it just didn't work. For me, that's what killed it for me. And I think if you weren't going to stick to the storyline with Carl, you should have just ended the show and walked away. To me, it became, like the theme of our show, a money grab when you start rewriting the story and you're going to, we're going to take Daryl and Carol and we're going to do this, and then we're going to put Rick on him and he's going to disappear, and Michonne's going to... They were setting up what they already knew were going to be sequels down the line. Money grab. And once you start planning for future sequels, knowing that you're going to try to spin off and do things, you're in trouble. It didn't work. It didn't work. I didn't hate Fear the Walking Dead. I thought it was a smart idea to show the stuff that led up to The Walking Dead and then connect the two stories. I thought that was a good idea, and I think they did a pretty good job of weaving those two shows together to where they eventually cross and you see how it all started. But that's all you needed. That's all you needed. We didn't need the rest of it. We don't need Negan and Maggie in New York. We don't need... I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and I love all of it, but we don't need that. We don't need Daryl in France. What the fuck is that? Like, no.
It's becoming the Kardashian spin.
Yeah, I just, I'd rather see Norman Reedus move on and become Ghost Rider. That's why we don't need him as Daryl anymore. We don't need him as Daryl anymore. Just, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But that was my opinion. That's where I think they died, is when they went away from the Carl. I was so excited when I saw his eye get shot out and like, fucking, yeah, they're going to do it. And then didn't. And then they fucking killed Carl. I'm like, wait, what the fuck?
Right? It was, kind of crazy. Well, number 2 for me goes to Grey's Anatomy. I think this one right here, there's only 2 original cast members left in this bad boy out of so many. 21 seasons deep, okay? I think they just continue to go on for the sake of going on, to keep setting a record, to keep moving forward. You've already interchanged Shonda Rhimes, she's not there anymore. Krista Vernoff, she's not there anymore. So you have to keep moving forward with these different showrunners and these different idea people who are changing it every which way, because it's all about this new crop of interns, which is basically a repeat of the original cast members. Of course, there's some different stuff every little bit, but I mean, it's basically the same story. Love is love, but then there's a person involved that shouldn't be involved. Like, oh, maybe I'm married or have a fiance to somebody I really don't like, and then I fall in love with a different intern, and then maybe we should get together, but I have to divorce the fiance, and all of this different love triangle bullshit. It was really good for so long, but then after they killed Derek, that's when I really kind of stopped liking it. I watched it all the way up until the 20th season, but then I was just, I was just done. I mean, it's a well-oiled machine. It's like Law and Order, SVU specifically, because it keeps it moving forward without any gaps. But it's sad to see, because what was once so great is no longer not that great. So it sucks. It really does. It's kind of like Brett Favre going to the Minnesota Vikings. Like, it's one of those things where you're sad that they're still there, and it's just one of those things where you're waiting for it to end. That's for sure. But number 2 for me, Grey's Anatomy.
I think that you nailed it on the head when it's one thing if you bring in a new crop of people, right? That's cool. right? And I'm going to talk about that in a second because that's what I think differentiates Law and Order from any other show that tries to do this thing that's been around this long, right?
Right.
But when you bring in a new, but then you just tell the same stories with different characters. Because that's really what happened, right? They started, like you said, just telling the same stories with different characters. And that's when you get yourself in trouble. That's when you know you've been around too long. The thing that Law and Order does differently, and which I know everybody's trying to chase Law and Order because that's like, but what they do differently is they bring in new characters. They've been able to successfully insert different characters throughout all the years, through the 25, 30 years. But the mastermind has never been gone. Dick Wolf is always present. Right? They have different showrunners, but Dick Wolf, the guy, he's always there. He makes sure that Law and Order is Law and Order. And then the other thing is their storylines you don't have to repeat like Grey's Anatomy does. Because the way they have it structured, you can continue to always have a different storyline going on. And the reason being is because it's ripped from the headlines, right? So anytime anything happens in real life, it plays into what happens on Law & Order, which is why that show, I think, has been able to successfully do what it's done after all these years. And where Grey's Anatomy starts to fail. Kudos to The Good Doctor for realizing we can only tell so many stories and then it's time to walk away gracefully. They knew that. So hopefully Grey's Anatomy figures that out and kind of
Are you
walks
still
away
watching
gracefully.
The Resident?
No, it can too. I mean, they brought it back on Netflix,
really?
But yeah, they ended it too.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
they did a
that.
little
Yeah, it got
time
canceled.
jump, which after they killed Nikki and time jumped, I was like, what are we doing? Right? Well, I wanted to continue to see that story. I don't like that and I get it. She left because Marvel. she had a storyline going on, but anyway, my number 2, I'll be back. No, we don't need you to come back.
No, we don't need you back.
The Terminator. Brilliant first movie. Brilliant. You needed the sequel. You needed Judgment Day because we needed to see that, right? What happens? Did she save the world? Did she not save the world? We needed to see that. Then stop. We did not need to see anything after that. We did not need to know. We did not need to see any other part of it. We didn't need to see in the future. We didn't need to see This is a prime example of taking something that really... I liken this to The Matrix. Like also, just a brilliant standalone movie that should have never even had the sequel, let alone the trilogy. And then they're still going on that fucker too. Just like that's my honorable mention, The Matrix. Just stop. But Terminator, it just wasn't necessary. It was a really cool thing that got you thinking, fuck, this is where we're headed, where computers are going to take over and they're going to fucking eliminate men and mankind. And it's going to be like, it was really interesting. And then it was really interesting to see an attempt to come back and get grown-up John and stop him before, interesting. And that, like, literally is all we needed. That's all we needed. I have nothing else to say on that. I think James Cameron knows it's all we needed. It goes to the theme of our show, cash grab. They're like, fuck, this was groundbreaking. This was the biggest movie of all time the summer that T2 came out, Judgment Day. Oh, you'd never seen technology like that before. It was groundbreaking special effects. It was all, okay, so what? It doesn't mean you have to keep going with it. Just let that be very cool and then move on. And when even Cameron lost interest and walked away from it, when they started making Terminators without Cameron, you should have known it was going to be in trouble. You just can't do Terminator without Cameron, and even he didn't want to do them. So, my number 2, Terminator. Stop. That there's rumors again that there's another one. Stop.
Yeah. Well, I'll mention my honorable mention first because it's kind of just like a theory. Maybe this should have happened because of the distress that it's in now. Should Star Wars have just ended with the Skywalker saga? Like that, it's so unfortunate to even say that because I am such a big Star Wars fan, but in the disarray that it is now, like, should it have just stopped after the first 6 films, which is it hurts. It really
Oh, you
hurts
don't
to
even think
say that.
9? You don't think it should have been the trilogy? I mean,
No,
no.
I
Oh.
no, yeah, I don't, because I mean this last trilogy with Ray, no one really liked. I mean, I liked it. I didn't have a problem with it. I'm a Star Wars fan, so it really anything they put out, I'm gonna have my critiques and be curious on why they chose what they chose as far as the storyline. But I overall enjoyed it. I honestly really loved Rise of the Skywalker, like that last one when they brought back Palpatine and all of the Force ghosts being with her at the very end. I thought that was very special. But whatever. People are gonna hate. They're gonna hate. But it's
I,
unfortunate. Like should it have just end with the 6, the prequels and the originals, which is it
so
hurts to say that.
I would agree with you, but I would maintain that it needed to be the 9. But here's where my problem is. They got into trouble. I think the 9 would have been perfect, but Lucas wasn't involved. Lucas had those back 3 written.
Yeah.
He had the story. He had the plan. And this is rare because I don't normally critique Iger very often, but I'm going to because Iger basically screwed him. He said, "Okay, great. You've got these scripts. We want to do these. It's going to be awesome." And he basically screwed him into selling Lucasfilm to Disney and then didn't do Lucas's stories for the back 3. And Iger to this day will probably tell you that was a big mistake. He has since tried to court Lucas over and over and over to get him back on the good side, right? And I have no doubt that if we had seen Lucas's original storylines for those back 3, they would have been stellar, right? We wouldn't have seen Rey and Kylo would have been twins. They would have been the kids, right? They went straying away from that just didn't work for me. I'm like, I like the Rise of Skywalker like you too, but why would you mess with that? The whole point of them being Han Solo and Leia's kids would just to go away from that didn't make sense to me.
No.
But so anyway, I'm with you. I think, don't get me wrong, I'm glad we got The Mandalorian. I'm glad we got Ahsoka, but that's all within that Skywalker storyline.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'd be fine if it had just been the original 9 and then we walked away. I will say this, I think that the reason that there's fatigue there, and I'm not the only one, I think that, we see this come up all the time, Kathleen Kennedy needs to fucking go.
Yeah.
She's just not doing well running the ship. I know she was the right-hand man to Lucas, but it was Lucas. And she basically did what Lucas wanted, and she's not now, and she's not the mastermind that Lucas was, and she's making mistakes, and she's hurting the franchise, in my opinion. If you're going to keep the franchise around, get rid of Kennedy. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, time for your number 1.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my number 1 goes to James Bond. I think the James Bond series is far played out. I mean, the spy espionage thriller type thing, I think it's very played out. I mean, I know they do very well at the box office, but in my opinion, you do get the same stories over and over and over and over again. And I mean, I just have a big gripe with that because it's very repetitive and they're very entertaining, but they're basically what the the historical filmmakers like a Scorsese or like those type of directors, those are the films that they don't talk shit about, but they talk shit about Marvel, but they're really the same thing. So what's the difference? Just because there's a little bit more class, there's a little bit more martinis, there's more sex, like what? It's the same thing. It's explosions, it's high chase scenes, it's fight sequences. So I just feel like this in particular, it's been played out for many years. The James Bond franchise has been going on for decades. So it's just, I think it's time to close the chapter on it, but that'll never happen because they're looking for the next one. So yeah, my number 1, James Bond.
I think that what people need to understand, and if you're a fan of Ian Fleming and the books, and now the Warfare of Gentlemen Men, I can't even say the fucking name of that thing, where you find out the person that this is actually based on, right? That Ian Fleming actually based all this on. But the important thing I think that people have lost track of over the years with making all these movies is that James Bond is not a person. James Bond is a code name. 007 James Bond slash 007. It's a code name. And I think where they've gotten in trouble over all these years, you know, what has it been, like 40, 50 years now that they've been making these things?
Something like that.
It's always the same. It's always the same guy. It's always, you know, it's James Bond doesn't have to be a suave British playboy kind of a guy. It can be a woman. It can be, you know, a black man. It can be an Indian. It can be. It was never meant to be just the same person. And I think that's where they ran into trouble. If you want to continue this franchise and you want to freshen it up and you want to change it up, give us different James Bonds. Let us see 007 be a woman. Let us see 007 be an Asian or whatever the case may be, because that's what it was meant to be. It was never supposed to be the same guy. And so that, in my opinion, I'm with you. I'm right there with you. If we're going to continue to get the suave, debonair, playboy, you know, British guy, then it's time to let it go. It's time to end it. It's time to move on. But if we can get different characters, if we can get different James Bonds, I'd like to see if they can do that. I'd like to see if they could continue the franchise that way, but I don't know.
Because London is such a hub for, you know, people from all around the world.
Yes.
So you could get so many different ethnicities, so many different backgrounds, so many different accents. Like, you could, but that never happens.
Yeah, no. And the author himself has said it's not that James Bond is just a name. It's not a, you know. So I don't know. Okay, my number one. I've said this numerous times. This is going to be no secret to anybody. It's time to move the fuck on, you guys. The Bachelor. I'm so fucking... How are people still watching this? Yeah. One couple is still married. One couple. Like, it's been on for how many decades? And one couple is married. Like, it's fucking awful. It's disgusting. It promotes everything wrong in society. Like, and I'm not saying that marriage is an institute that is for everybody. I'm not trying to claim any religion or any kind of a thing. But I'm just saying, when we put a show on that's basically approving and pushing this. I don't want my daughter watching a show that promotes sleeping with a bunch of different guys all within a short period of time, or being reckless or stupid like that. It just, for me, it promotes everything wrong about morals and society and what to expect. This is not real love. It's just not. And the idea that it continues, and then the spawns with the Bachelorette and Fuckboy Island and like all these things that have come from this fucking stupid ass show. Is this what we want to promote? Is this the kind, and the idea that it's still so popular and that so many people watch this piece of shit? I don't get it.
Because it's not even generational anymore. They got the Golden Bachelor, and now they're about to have the Golden Bachelorette.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, just be better. Be better than this. Society is better than this. Have more self-respect for yourself. Have more self-esteem. Like, this is just a terrible, trashy show.
Is this the biggest property coming out of Disney that you hate?
Yes! Yes! We don't need this, man. Look, again, this has nothing to do with my thoughts on marriage. It has nothing to do with my thoughts on responsible sex. If you want to sleep around, great, but be responsible about it. To me, this just sends every wrong message imaginable for society, and I think it's time to let it go. Can we just fucking put this show to bed and everything that spawned from it? Just put it away. Just put it away.
Goodness. That's so funny. Well, we want to know, what are your top 5 franchise properties, or the one that sticks out to you the most? What's the franchise property that went on too long? Be sure to comment below in the comment section. Add us on X, Threads, all the good places. We love the fan interaction. It's so fun.
It is.
All right. Now heading over to the box office recap. Oh, man. Oh, man. Of course, we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine. Came back up for that #1 spot. And that Madonna song is playing everywhere now.
Oh, yeah.
Radio.
Yeah.
It's absolutely hilarious. It's taken that that running up the hill like Stranger Things did route, which I think is cool. But Deadpool came in at $18.3 million this past weekend. Alien Romulus came in at $16.3 million. It Ends With Us came in at $11.6 million. Blink Twice came in at number 4 with 7.3, and The Forge came in at number 5 with 6.7.
And
it was pretty funny. Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you see what's missing from that also was new this week, but not on the list. The Crow.
Yeah,
didn't even crack the top 5, y'all. Like it was really just non-existent at the box office, man.
Yeah. People did not want to see that
No.
one, that's for sure. Well, new movies coming out this week. You got Reagan, you got Afraid, you got 1992, City of Dreams, Gotta Believe. So a smaller blockbusters, but indeed blockbusters.
Oh, yeah.
I would say these have the potential to make somewhere between 20 and 30 million, or I would say 20 and 35 million. So I mean, we'll see. Hopefully Reagan in 1992 can crack 20, but
I'm really curious to see how Reagan does in a world where Republicans have basically become the Antichrist. And this is the Republican of all Republicans. I mean, when you surpass Abraham Lincoln as the Republican,
he's still the face.
Yeah. So and that's evident because during the entire Democratic convention, the amount of times they referenced Reagan was insane. So I'm curious to see how that plays in the box office. I really am. That's going to be real curious to me.
For sure. And I mean, movies you can go see right now: Trap, The Crow, Twisters, Despicable Me 4, and Strange Darling. I do have a gripe though with movie theaters. I wanted to wait until this specific moment. Freaking, my showtime started at 7:05. 7 minutes worth of non-stop ads played before the trailers even started, and then the trailers didn't end until 7:35. So what is that? That is literally 30 minutes of ads and trailers. That is absolutely insane. I understand since COVID, since the writer's strike, actor's strike, you need money. You need money as a theater chain. I get that, but holy crap. Sitting there for 30 minutes, or especially 7 to 10 minutes just watching commercials before the trailers even start is absolutely ridiculous. I hate where we're at as far as theater chains when it comes to commercials and ads and things like that. I was okay with the long trailers because I like trailers. I like seeing what's coming out, and I'll rewatch that stuff. But when you throw 10 minutes worth of ads in there, that's absolutely ridiculous.
I would echo that wholeheartedly. If you want to run ads, use the whole time prior to the trailers starting to run your ads
when you're walking in.
Yeah. People always sit down early, so you're gonna catch those people. They can watch it, but once the showtime hits, I don't want to see any ads. And furthermore, with the trailers, I'm a big trailer guy too, and I love it. But I think trailers should specifically be, what is the company of the movie that you are about to watch? And it should be trailers promoting movies from that company and only that company. And it should be trailers of similar type movies of the movie that you're going to do. That way you'd at max get 2 or 3 trailers, something that is trying to promote that studio and what content they have coming, and then move into your movie. We don't need to see 75 trailers from 18 different studios for shit that's not even coming out for another year and a half. Like, I just want to see something that's similar, that gets me pumped up and excited about the movie we're about to watch and what they've got coming up, and then move on. Because, you're right. It's anywhere between 30 and 40 minutes before your movie starts. So whatever your start time is bullshit. Add 30 to 40 minutes, and that's when your start time is. And I'm right there with you. Come on, theaters. What the fuck? Do better.
Yeah, because, I mean, I literally saw Craven. I saw Brave New World. I saw Joker. I saw Afraid that was coming out this weekend, and I mean a couple of others as well. That the fuck is his name? The dude that you don't like, the British guy, who used to be really big, Notting Hill, and
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant. I saw that Hugh Grant A24 movie. I saw the James McAvoy scary movie, and a couple of others, and it's way too played out. It's ridiculous.
Well, see, and that's a perfect example. Like, I saw McAvoy's also. That movie, that trailer, makes perfect sense to play in front of Blink Twice. Because it's another fucking psychotic, crazy-ass movie about, like, sociopath killers, right? By the way, that's what I saw this weekend so far, guys. It was Blink Twice and fuck. But anyway, show me similar trailers and then move on. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yep.
That's crazy. But anyway, guys, we're on to our IMDbPro's top trending segment to round up this episode. Top trending movie, Alien Romulus. Top trending show is The Umbrella Academy. And the top trending star is Aiden Gallagher.
Yes. And I lost you. Hello?
Her at Charlotte Kirk Official.
We might want to, like, take it from the top again with IMDb because you froze and I didn't hear anything from that.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can.
All right, guys. So now we're heading over to the IMDbPro's top trending segment. Round out this episode. Oh my goodness. The top trending movie was Alien Romulus. Top trending TV show is Umbrella Academy. And the top trending star is Aiden Gallagher.
Yes.
So be sure to check all of those people out. But anyway, guys, be sure to check out Charlotte Kirk. She's at Charlotte Kirk Official. And thank you so much for listening to her interview, the podcast, this episode 270, man. It's been absolutely amazing. And be sure to follow us, the company, and us personally on social media, the company at Crazy Ant Media, ITCAFpodcast for this podcast, Everything's Okay P for our mental health podcast, and so much more. Be sure to follow us personally, myself at J. Logan Austin, and
at Crazy Ant CEO.
There we go. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitcher, and so much more. If you're watching this video on YouTube, we appreciate you. Hit that like button below, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for all the latest and greatest notifications coming out of Crazy Ant Media. And be sure to go over to our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start looking at that Crazy Ant Media gear. We got 20% off right now, so be sure to check that out. But, I mean, a great episode, man. I mean, being able to talk about the craziness that is that Paramount situation with Skydance and fucking fuckface. And, yeah, I mean, when I was watching the movies last night, I was like, I really want to make a rant about this because this is ridiculous. So that was probably my favorite part of the whole show.
Yeah, no, I it's the same thing. I get frustrated every single time I go. It's just, there's just no need for it. Especially in a day and age when you can watch the trailers on YouTube. You don't need to see 35 trailers there because you can literally watch whatever trailer you want on YouTube. So just entertain me with what I want to see. Yeah, for me, I mean, definitely one of my favorite parts is talking about Superman, Christopher Reeve. Just so incredibly pumped about that, and I can't wait to see that one. And yeah, and then I'm really excited. Let us know, guys. Give us some feedback. Send us an email or just comment or whatever. I'm really enjoying our new format. I'm really liking the more conversational aspect of the show and just kind of really talking and having a good conversation through the industry news. I really like that. So give us your thoughts on that, and do you kind of like that? And let us know, because I'm having a lot of fun with it.
For sure. But everybody knows we love the one, the only.
Oh, bro!